Me and Shannon are at the Eco Village in Shawnigan Lake. Shannon, say hi.
Bonjour.
Cool, keep you posted with some cool stuff. Look, I'll give you a snipe shot of a cob house across the pond. Snipe shot, cob house. It's all made out of mud and sticks. And a cool pond.
And love.
And love. And hope and faith.
Dreams.
They're awesome. Hey, buddy. How you doing? Yes, you guys are cute. Put on a show probably for the fun of it too, eh? I don't know. I'm sure. I don't know. All depends how aggressive they are, I guess. They want to hang out, that's for sure. Look at her, she's beautiful. She be chewing or what? What's up, girly girl? I don't know if she's gonna bite me or not. Yeah, good call. Not have to worry. Hey, little buddies. Hey. Nobody's gonna bite, no? Oh, that's cool, man. If you're not gonna bite, I'm stoked. Yeah, you're awesome. Yeah, well, you never know, eh? Sometimes they're crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, I think I just rubbed my leg on something, and it's like.
Is it itchy?
Something, yeah.
Pee on it. Same with the little guys.
You guys are just lazy. I really like her. She's beautiful, hey? Shit. Yeah, beautiful. Nice, solid. Where are those horns, eh? Savage. Oh, I'm sorry.
What did you do?
I was just rubbing her horns. I don't think she likes that.
They seem cool, eh?
Yeah.
See that little guy? Very nice.
We're going in tomorrow with David and Yarrow and others, weaving through the day, and then yoga and movement and all this and that, and then cacao and breathwork ceremony on Monday for those who stay on. If you haven't heard that one before, the poster is here. Many people have grouped their contributions and gifts to the world into this weekend, so we are juggling a lot. Is there any burning questions before we start? I would like to take you through a history of this place, a design, the development process as a background, and then look into the future as well. And I'll say a bit more about myself before we go on, but is there any burning questions or things people really want to know about while they're here? Is there any particular interests? Travel from eco-villages from the other side of the world?
I have a question about your hemp building projects in the future. So just as they come up.
Okay. Yeah, I probably should pick that one off right off the beginning. So I will go there now because we'll stack as many questions in as we can, and we'll have lots as we go. We were meant to be doing a hemp block building project, actually our showcase project, just as you drove up the driveway this year. We're jumping in with a company called BioFiber, Just BioFiber, and they have not had their production blocks approved. So our big project that we were going to start on the beginning of June is on hold, will happen. We're hoping everything goes through, but interestingly, that's kind of a good segue to this place. You're going to see 26 different kinds of buildings and natural building projects. And what I should say before we embark and into all of what is this place is everything you see is legal, it's permitted, it's engineered, it's gone through crazy approval processes, and most of it has set a precedent in Canada in some way. So one of the things that brings many people to our eco-village is the seemingly outrageous idea that we would even attempt to not hide out what we're doing and actually try and make living sustainably legal, which is a big part of this place. Who'd have thought that it wasn't legal to live sustainably? Who'd have thought you're not allowed grey water systems that recycle and water your gardens, or that you're not allowed composting toilets, or to craft your own buildings out of earthen or straw bale or construction. So there's lots of that on the tour to talk about in terms of buildings, and I'm a designer, have been a builder by background among other things, so I can speak to that as well. Maybe you could introduce yourself too.
Hello everyone.
Hello.
My name is Mark.
Hello.
I live here at the village. I was a homesteader last year, and a homesteader is the title we have for the internship program. So I came and became a part of the village with a group of 7 other folks. Spent 7 to 8 months here and got to take part in building, in learning about permaculture, working in the garden. Basically all the different programs that took place I got to be a part of, so I learned a lot. What I really learned was how much I love being in community and being here specifically. So I went back to Alberta, and then I came back again this March, and here I am. And now I'm part of the core team and helping to facilitate things such as this tour. So if you have questions throughout your time here and I'm around, please feel free to ask me, and I will answer to the best of my ability, and I will be honest. Of course, I will not just make things up. I will just tell you the straight truth. If I don't know something, I will tell you that. And, yeah.
Do you think we want to be back in front on a group, or do we want to go to 2 groups? Do you have a preference?
I don't have a preference, to be honest. I was thinking back in front because
Okay.
I love your stories.
Okay.
I want to hear
We'll
them
stop
again.
sometimes and hear them, and
Yeah.
we'll all be together that
Yeah.
way. Okay. Other burning ideas?
I'm curious, Arif, about membership and
Yep. How long's it been since you were here?
2009.
Whoop, whoop. There's a few changes. You can yell out, "Oh my God, this wasn't here," when you go back. So there, in terms of what have you immersed yourself in, you're in a 25-acre sustainable living demonstration site and education center. That's what the website says, kind of thing. What else is really going on here is that we have been for 17 years crafting the culture of village and trying to understand for ourselves and with others, what does that mean? And so village is really about the name of this place, and our eco-village is an acronym for One United Resource, and it's meant to speak to this idea that we actually each bring a contribution. We each have a passion and a purpose, and something, no matter how old or young or able or less able, we're all bringing something to the party. And what would happen if we all did it together? And so a lot of the impulse of this was to recreate the commons, common place for common people, for the common good. What did that mean? We had no idea, just to be really honest. Our top 2 skills weren't lawyers, developers, and really deep pockets full of lots of cashola lola. It was 2 things, the highest skills. Try and guess them. Are you guys roasting in the sun? Yeah. Come on this way if you need to, because we're going to stop for 15 or 20 before we embark. Make yourself comfortable.
Desire and willingness.
Desire and willingness. Keep going. What's it take to create a village? What's it take to live sustainably? Passion? Persistence. You've heard about this place. Say it again. A vision. Communication. Over communicate. Say it again. Momentum. Got to get your feet up underneath you and keep going. Safety. Did you say safety? That's always one of my quick retorts is relationships a high-risk game. There's nothing safe about relationship, let me tell you. You never know what you're getting yourself into. And then multiply it by a village. Ooh, high-risk game. Okay, any others? Teamwork. Big time.
Cooperation.
Imagination, cooperation. It's like all of the above. Creativity. Leadership.
Co-creation.
Co-creation. What happens if you put those all in one place?
Dynamics.
Group dynamics. That is completely true. Who knows the forming, storming, norming, and performing of group dynamics? Heard that one? Some people call it pseudo-community, chaos, emptying, and true community. And so what you might get out of that is there's cycles that happen, and the idea of actually having to wrestle with something and go through the crunchy bits is the only way to getting to that notion of the performing or community, or however everybody labels that kind of journey. And I would say it's not linear, it's quite cyclical, especially when you constantly have new people walking in the door. So you pretty much start anew every time a new person comes in. And so there's about 25 to 30 of us living on site right now. We've been upwards to 60, and we definitely have focalized ourselves on the legalities and the applied learning of projects that are not just demonstration, but we use them. So we don't just look at a building, we live in it, usually long before it's finished. Noticeably, everything's under construction. We've taken on every kind of system and tried to create the most sustainable design of those systems, and then realign the systems to be the most mutually beneficial with the least harmful impact. And that is one definition of permaculture design. And who's heard of permaculture design in this group now? Heard those words? That is good. Long time ago when we got here, nobody put up their hands. Now we're kind of going at least 50%. What you'll notice in our permaculture design certificate course, which is taught all over the world, but we teach here every May with usually about 50 people from around the world, is that we have doctors, lawyers, and candlestick makers literally in our permaculture design course this year, which is pretty exciting. It means everybody is thinking about how to permaculturalize their gig and their world and their lifestyle. And I would say, yes, the United Nations are right. It is a sustainable technology to reinvent the world in terms of design. But really, my personal need is that it's a lifestyle choice and a way of being, not just a certificate and a bunch of cool, funky ways to design. So start there as a means or a manner of recreating the commons as a theory, and then put a whole bunch of people in the soup pot, give it a good stir, and go through the storming, norming, and performing. And you might imagine that all of us come together with all those kind of design projects. We're pretty much here now 17 years later, and 10 years before that in Victoria. So for some of us, 27 years in to intentional community and eco-village design and living. To notice that with anybody who wants to come visit, we like to notice with people that living and working together is the largest challenge in the equation of sustainable living, especially for North Americans. If you're not from this continent, people often visit here and go, wow, what is really going to happen in the North American scene of how we're all actually going to learn how to do the dishes together, which we're going to do tonight as part of a really applied learning exercise. But to actually really pull it off together is the daily interest and challenge and joy of our eco-village. So we are long-term residents who actually own part of a co-op, and we also have co-op members who are not on site. They're stakeholders. They're either from education, enterprise, what am I missing? Agriculture in some way, or community stakeholders, and that includes, great people in Wales. So our doesn't end at the fence line, or it's not a geographic location. Our community is whoever self-professes to be in community and to be wanting to pull it off together. Makes it really confusing when you live here or you visit. Like, who's doing this? What's going on? So the residents also host a whole core team of people who come in and commit to walking a journey for a certain period of time, or even an open-ended period of time. And then we also, that next layer, hosts homesteaders as a program, which is like a 9-month now program. Takes 9 months to create us as humans. So this is like an immersed learning to live and eat and sleep and breathe sustainable living. And then we host volunteers from all over the world. You meet the most amazing people here who come for a week or a year, you never know. And we have short-term courses going on, and that makes up many of us who are here that you'll meet. And now suddenly we co-hosted with a number of groups or organizations this weekend. So you'll have no clue who you're sitting beside at the picnic table. We want to see the regulatory authorities, we want to see business and corporate, we want to see academia, and we want to see the grassroots community all sitting together at these tables as our best attempt towards really trying to create a holistic, sustainable path for communities. It means we're inclusive in every way, which is also pretty crazy making, because then you want some structure. But all these years later, we're kind of known for the structure. In the first 2 years of being here, we took on a land use and zoning allowance. So we are a park, we're a school, we're an organic farm, and we're a residential village that's allowed 10 homes on site. We also are allowed food services in our 0 Mile Meal Eatery that you're going to get to enjoy tonight, and accommodation services. So we have camping, dorms, and private B&B rooms, which camping is like unheard of on private land. So it was a bit of work to get that. But that zoning, or land use allowance, has set a precedent in Canada. And really, I was saying in a talk this morning, you never know what you're getting yourself into, but if any of us knew what we were going to do, we probably would have all run out the gate. I'm a therapist by background. I've done a stint as a bureaucrat. I probably was destined for law school, but I really just need to be a farmer for the most part. And so the idea of sitting in boardrooms and hashing through stacks of paper and red tape that high didn't really sound like my passion. And I have to say, there's been an amazing group of people who went from the zoning to the building codes. None of these buildings were really legally approved to be fully allowed for residences, and with all the different ways that we've been building. We took our first building in Canada through a 10-year evaluation process, and we'll go visit it. We also took on the Wastewater Act. We created a new ownership model in Canada. How the heck are you going to own the commons? You're supposed to have something called lands title and fill it in, and it's a piece of paper and a registration and all that stuff. Well, if all of us standing here wanted to own the commons or be part of the commons, or however that is, how would we do that? Because honestly, we are not all going to get to sign that piece of paper. We'd have to have an incorporated entity. And most people hear corporation and go, wow. Can you imagine a whole bunch of activists getting together? There was 14 of us originally in the beginning, and committing ourselves to listening to the land, and listening to each other, and listening to what else was being asked of us and of here, and really just documenting and mapping everything that was happening here for 1 year. 14 type A personalities that are like, get her done, let's go. Not doing that, and just slowly crafting a life, crafting buildings, crafting community as best we knew how. Those two skills, when I go back to it, really, they were all the things you said, but I would coin them or maybe categorize them or theme them into two ways. We had outrageous optimism. Like, you know, when you don't really realize that something isn't possible, you're just like, yes, we're going there, North Star. And you kind of throw your line out and you just keep reeling yourself in and somewhere, and we're going, and you just have a feeling. That's one really high skill to have. It makes you almost unstoppable. And the other one that definitely makes you like almost immortal is a really high skill, including all the things you said, and I would theme that into a high level of naivety. It's an awesome skill. How many of us really know that we know a ton of stuff and we're pretty smarty pants and we've got these things figured out, and we're designers or builders, or, you know, we're pretty smart folks. We should be able to figure this out. And I would say the greatest skill probably is when we realize we don't know that much. We don't really know how to live and work together really well, as exemplified by our families and our neighborhoods and towns, country to country, etc. So what if we kind of start with just the naive place of let's try, or we're doing our best and let's see what we can do. Usually when you do that and you've got a North Star, naivety means you don't see all the tripping hazards along the way. Like you're just looking up, you don't see what's wrong or what is not going to happen. Or, you know, when you have friends and family that are like, not a smart thing to do. That was constantly happening here. And off we went, la. Anyway, naivety means you're not jaded. It means hearing no doesn't really impact you. So when we were told by the government, no, you can't do this, we said, really? Well, how about if we help you? How about if we help you make this legal so you can do it with us? And you don't usually trounce into your local government office and offer to volunteer. But we did for 2.5 years of legal and political work and started creating education forums everywhere. And over and over and over again, this place became about authentic relationship, like really diving in deep. And I think that's probably what brought a lot of people out this weekend to all find each other. But a means and a way of crafting a life path forward where you actually partner with regulatory authorities, not run and hide or sneak out into the back 40 and build your beautiful earthen building, but to come straight out of the closet, be fully out with it, and ask every level of approval process to become part of helping make something happen. That's definitely the case here. We're highly invested in by government in many ways and many programs and departments, all 3 levels of government. We have 12 universities and colleges that use this site as a research center and a immersed learning environment extension classroom as well. We actually run K-12 programs here for public and private schools. So we're not like the fringe anymore. We've gone from being eco-kooks to being eco-consultants. And that whole journey of it can't happen to us all being here today, some people coined that journey as the title of creating the seemingly impossible. So imagine as we walk around and you look at things like, oh, how did that happen? Or how the heck did they get that approved? And lots of times what you'll see is we built our first composting toilet 14 years ago as a demonstration project. We didn't say we think it should be in the codes or it should be we didn't say we had it figured out or this was the right way to do it. We said we wanted to research it. And then we go from researching something to documenting the research. And of course you have to have applied learning. So you have to use the composting toilet, which is always helpful, part of our soil fertility program. And if you've got research, then you have a body of knowledge to look at and compare to other research where other precedents were set, and then you move it forward. So if there's anybody in this circle that sat in the conversations of, we'll never be allowed to do that, or who, just little me, or we're just, we're the little guys, or we're just one person, or how can I make a difference? Imagine that really we weren't heavily skilled up for this, we didn't have the deep pockets, and we had no background or knowledge of how to go forward other than those 2 other skills, and yet precedent after precedent after precedent. We are a nonprofit community services multi-stakeholder co-op, be it really long names when you take fractured societies and put the pieces of the puzzle back together. We have a zoning to be a rural residential comprehensive development zone. We're funded through the Community Trust for Ethical Investment. You see how long the names get? They're all pieces and tools of what we've crafted to help make this happen. And when I say we, it could be the amorphous group of almost 10,000 folks per year who have contacted in through this place in one way, for one reason, shape, or other, per year. 10,000 people saying, I want, I need, I'm interested in, and somehow that helps craft what happens here. And if you've been here before, that might be your handprint on one of these buildings or walls. It's amazing how many people come back every, 10 years later and go, I did that. And bit by bit, we create our community, we create a life, we create an example.
Welcome, everybody. 65 people. Okay.
Come on in, everybody. Filter your way into the back room there. And you can all fit. Yeah, there is some. Hi, nice to see you. Welcome, everybody.
So when I talked about taking a building through 10 years of regulatory process, this is the first natural building in Canada to just dive in with the regulatory folks. And our dime, we did all the research and engineering every year to evaluate the building. And look, lo and behold, it's still here. Where do you live? We live I've definitely seen you before. Yeah. Are you mother-daughter? Daughter. Yeah, I've seen you guys before. Okay. Maybe at some other event.
Yeah, that's very good.
Yeah.
Welcome. Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you.
Oh, cool, eh?
I want to get a picture of the shower. Go under the shower, I'll get a picture over there. Look at me.
Yeah, cool.
Oh, wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Never heard of that though, that's cool.
And last year we were watering 1,900 gallons a day. It just in our food systems, that's not the human use. So that really means like beyond just reduce your consumption into a conservation level, but it becomes like an emergency planning. If our well was to have gone out, we would have lost, a whole farm system potentially. So this isn't just like because it's really groovy to design systems. This is a very practical and in fact necessary, especially as the climate's been changing, kind of necessary method to start to think this way. And especially as people start to become more reactive to building materials, potentially different glues and laminates. Folks have figured out paint isn't necessarily great until we start to lower the VOCs. But it's that same kind of thinking taken to the forward push where we're trying to work to open up new opportunities with it. So I'm going to keep us going. Does anybody have questions as we move through? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Tonight there won't be any traffic.
Yeah,
So, and then tomorrow we won't get, I won't have to go. And the butterfly meeting.
I really know. I don't mind.
Yeah, I wrote it all down.
Oh, there's some cattle down there too. Hey, buddy.
Yeah, it was just crazy. I was just
There's one of our cows over there, Violet.
Violet, nice.
She's great. If you go and see her later, she'll love you up, but she loves very hard. She doesn't know her strength, right?
Yeah.
So be careful.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So you guys make your own cheese and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, actually we're
That's
holding
cool.
a cheese making workshop coming up too.
Good, cool.
Yeah.
Good.
I was going to ask if you grow anything on the rooftop.
Yeah.
There's land?
They got this thing down
What was it? What
towards
was the
Port
question?
Alberni where they have these goats up on the roof of the store, eh? It's a big
Oh, that's
tourist
awesome. They
attraction.
love
Eh?
Yeah, Coombs there?
Coons, yeah.
Yeah. That's cool.
That's exactly it. So we have a central council and a ground team that holds space for that council. So we're kind of the leaders on the ground, and each one of us have a team. And so there's a building team, there's a farm team, there's an admin team, there's a hospitality and events team, there's a kids team. So the teams make up a proposal or plans in budgets and then submit that into the general circle. And that's something, if you're into this kind of thing and how can groups much more democratically or with integrity of participation go through their governance and decision making, We actually wrote the handbook for nonprofits and co-ops in Canada. You can find it online if you just say Our Eco Village Dynamic Governance. And that handbook has taken sociocracy, which is what it's called in Europe, but if you say anything that sounds like socialism in North America, people are allergic to it. So it's called dynamic governance, and it's used on a corporate level in a really huge way now. I find it pretty fascinating where it's rippled out to, but we did a PhD research program here for a year, and we thought we were going to blend a whole bunch of models into one. We actually just adopted dynamic governance as its whole, and that's how the teams all work together. It's pretty much saved our bacon before. This is not an unstructured community, I'll say that again. It's not like the hope for it and wish that it'll work out and maybe we'll get the building built plan. We're like, there's the goal, backcast from there, how do you make that happen, who needs to be involved? And then we have this weird method of like integrating people that phone and say, I'm from Siberia and I'm traveling through and I just want to stay the weekend. We're like, oh, okay, let's see if we can do that. And somehow we bring in as much participation as we possibly can. And then we'll get stuff like, this is kind of cute, but our art studio, which we started, I guess this was built about 8 years ago. It was actually a Legacy Now 2010 project. And this is kind of funny, but if you remember the Winter Olympics, long before it came, they put out a contest. And one of the categories was for art, a little in our garden.